All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're really excited to have Paul Buckley, Localization Project Manager for Canva, and Tiffany from our account management team for a fireside chat today. Just a couple of reminders. They're going to go ahead and have a Q&A with each other and have a conversation. And at the end, they're going to open it up for a live moderated Q&A. If you do have a question you want to ask them live, you'll notice up in the top right corner, there's a button that says share my audio and video. Go ahead and click that and I will moderate you into the session. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tiffany and Paul.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. I'm glad to see that it seems like the numbers have increased over the day instead of declined, so that's great. I'm glad to see that. So like Melissa said, I'm Tiffany. I am an account manager at Lilt. I've had the pleasure of working with Paul, and now I also have the pleasure of kind of moderating this chat between us. So Paul, first of all, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and big thanks to Lilt for putting this on.
Yeah, happy to. So I thought that we could begin our session with a short introduction of both you and of your company, Canva, because both are very interesting. So Paul has what I believe to be the best background for managing internal localization for a large company. He has degrees in both linguistics and in computer science, and he's a certified project manager. After completing his education, he went on to work at one of the largest LSPs in Australia, and then moved on to Google as a program manager. And then after Google, Paul came to be at Canva. On a personal note about Paul, I recently discovered that although he is a native Australian, born and bred in Sydney, he is a diehard American football fan. So while we're all drinking beer and watching Sunday Night Football, you are getting up at 3 a.m. on a Monday to watch Red Zone before starting your week. That is truly dedicated fan.
I can't think of a better way to start the working week.
I mean, sleeping. Sleeping's a pretty good way.
That was the second best option.
Yeah, that's great. I also wanted to take a moment to introduce to our listeners Canva. Paula had mentioned a little bit this morning about how Canva is a Sydney-based software company that is truly deserving of the unicorn title 6 times over. They essentially created an easy-to-use design platform for non-designers, and now the company is growing 100% year over year in revenue, with 40 million monthly active users across 190 countries. In total, Canva has raised over 300 million in funding, and in the most recent round, raised 60 million, increasing the company valuation to 6 billion, which is absolutely incredible. It's such a joy to work with Canva and to scale with you guys. So I'm sure that your insights from leading localization efforts as such a fast-growing global company will be vastly beneficial for the localization community joining us here today. So now that we've kind of laid some groundwork about who you are and who Canva is, I wanted to start our conversation talking about how localization is viewed at Canva. We all know that for most companies, localization is a cost center. Loic mentioned, part of that this morning in his talk. However, it seems like for Canva, localization has been a strategic function of the company and of the growth of the company. So can you tell us why Canva is investing in localization and what challenges come from having localization as a revenue driver?
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. You're right. Localization really has been and continues to be a strategic function of Canva. While localization is an effective impact multiplier for tech companies in hypergrowth, the importance of localization at Canva has been bolstered by one of our core missions. We do sincerely believe it's our goal to empower the entire world to design. When striving towards that mission, we're constantly looking for ways to knock down barriers and make anyone and everyone's design experience simple and engaging. One of the biggest of these barriers is the language barrier. I often think it would have been a sound strategy to cap our localization efforts at sort of 4 to 5 languages, probably Spanish, Portuguese, Mandarin, Indonesian. They probably account for the majority of our user base. You could argue that would have been a pretty safe compromise between scale and impact. But we're not really into safe over here, and the thought of leaving out millions of people with ongoing design needs, many of whom are in emerging low English literacy markets, wasn't in line with our mission. Now, once you make that decision, once you cross that line, you really have made your bed. In terms of the challenges of having localization as a revenue driver, probably just maintaining both the quality and the scale. When working in a cross-functional team like localization, a fast-growing company, there's a sort of event horizon. And by that, I mean, the rate at which new features, new content types, new marketing channels, new strategic initiatives are introduced, it can sometimes feel like localization will never be able to catch up, especially when you've got really high standards for language quality, multiple layers of LQA testing across all the languages to which you've committed. So yeah, there are definitely challenges, but challenges that are fun to solve. Oh, you're muted, Tiff.
Very polite and not make any noise while you were talking. I'll just leave
Thanks.
it. So that's incredible and so interesting to hear about. So you're managing localization across 100 locales with fast turnaround times, which I can, speak to because we work together on these fast turnaround projects. Can you tell us a little bit about how you scaled the elements of your localization program to handle this huge amount of content?
Yeah, sure. Let me think about that. Well, I mean, the whole team has done it, so that's the first point to make. I think maybe if I just go through a little bit of a brief history of our localization team and process, that might help shed some light. So there has sort of been, I would say, 3 waves of localization at Canva, to use that analogy. The first was really able to take us from one language, which was English, that's what our product, our source language is, to 2 languages, English and Spanish. It was a very tumultuous time, exciting. The main emphasis was really on building a translation build pipeline that worked in harmony with our tech stack. After a fair bit of success in the Spanish market, the second wave really arrived when we were able to take it from 2 to 100 plus. So we were able to expand the team, ramp up into our next 100 locales. This period, the main emphasis was really on maintaining language quality during that scaling process. We hired our first dedicated LQA manager, linguistic quality assurance. All of this work was completely fundamental, and the growth really stretched and pushed our systems and processes and team to the limits. Then came the third wave. That's where we are now. So no longer a tiny team of just 1 or 2. Now with a refreshed and highly optimized build pipeline, we were able to focus more on strategy. How do we actually drive strategic impact through localization at a company like this? Mm-hmm. And so at Canva, we understand there to be 2 primary types of localization work, what we call program localization and product localization. During the first 2 waves, the majority of the work was for the sake of the program. So setting up systems, processes, documentation, reporting, training, all of the necessary groundwork. We had resources, we had an English product, and we were localizing it. However, despite the progress we made, we found ourselves spending a lot of time trying to evangelize localization throughout the product teams, trying to help other teams understand the importance of internationalization, of actually building a product that is language and market agnostic so that localization could become even more comprehensive, not bogged down by thousands of LQA bugs introduced by taking the English product and then translating it. So this cross-functional evangelism has now taken the form of what we call product localization. We tried to disband our siloed team become localization experts spread throughout the company, sitting inside a team just like a product manager or a product designer, content designer, engineer. We're able to both better understand the product itself, but also better able to shape the way the product is built. We've still got a long way to go, but we're definitely seeing the benefits of building a localized product rather than building a product, then localizing it.
Wow. So it sounds like your team is more embedded inside the other teams, and localization isn't just centralized. That's great. And you touched on a number of other complexities with your program. I'd love to narrow in and talk a little bit about the content type that Lilt and Canva works on together, which are the design templates. Can you tell us a little bit about this content, and then also what makes localizing design templates challenging, and how do you mitigate the risk of creating a low quality design templates?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so localized templates, it's been a super fun project to work on and to work on with Tiffany. It's also a really interesting challenge. For those of you who don't know what a Canva template is, it's just a graphic design asset with placeholder text, forms the basis from which users dynamically create their own content. They really are an integral part of Canva and an integral part of our user journey for most users. It really serves the primary purpose of breaking down the barrier of entry for non-designers to create designer content. So structurally, in terms of the actual translation itself, it's pretty straightforward. We've got XLIF files marked up with strings whose properties range from standard copy to metadata like titles and keywords. The complexity really comes from the highly varying visual context that the template designers actually produce. We have a centurion of graphic designers constantly striving to capture and replicate emerging design trends while offering a wide variety of well-known styles and visual trends. Unfortunately, this means you never know what challenge is going to be around the corner in terms of what the templates are going to look like. Some technical examples of challenges would be, vertical texts, tessellating text groups, sort of nuanced element overlapping for very specific visual trends. Another one is like line height and font size for longer translations, compromising what really is a carefully curated visual hierarchy. I know that string length is an issue that every software company faces in localization, but yeah, just one of the few. Some of the high-level cultural examples would be, taking an American football flyer, which I love, and turning it into a soccer flyer or a football flyer for Europe. Taking appropriating cocktail menus in cultures with a strict religious or legal stance on alcohol consumption, or creating playful, light-hearted certificates for a market like Japan, where certificates are no joke; they're official documents. So yeah, it's a challenge. It was pretty clear on early that localizing this content wasn't going to be as simple as just translating the strings. It was also apparent that the other side of the solution would have been, hiring teams of dual-skilled translated graphic designers in each market, which wasn't as scalable as we needed. So we innovated and produced a compromise, and what we ended up doing is building a proprietary internal review tool which takes our translated strings and puts them into a new Canva template. We place this side by side with the English version, and we allow trained native speakers to see how the strings land on the page and dynamically edit the strings in order to produce a localized template that stays true to the original design aesthetic. The native speakers also perform any last-minute linguistic review, making changes that translators could never have picked up on without the context. Working in this controlled environment allows us to pick and choose which aspects of the design the reviewers can adjust, and feeds directly into our template backend, producing fully fledged Canva templates available to our global user base. So, much like the evolution of localization as a team that I mentioned just earlier, The project has moved from a place where initially we just had finalized English content that required localization. Now we've gotten to a point where we've got sort of an end-to-end content creation process in which even the original English template creators are optimizing content for localization. One example of an optimization is in the meta structure of a template, where titles, headings, and subtitles can be grouped together. This allows text reflow to occur seamlessly when translated strings are shorter or longer than the original English template, resulting in fewer overlapping text elements in the final product. So yeah, complex, challenging, fun. In a project like this, really demands both scale and speed. It's impossible to completely remove the risk of, compromising on quality. I think much like Lil, the best solution for us was to strike a balance between letting technology do the heavy lifting, but also keeping humans in the loop and constantly be innovating, figuring out new ways to do things, keeping an eye out for, risks, constantly be willing to change pace and change direction in order to get to where you need to get.
Wow, that's great. Thank you so much for taking us through very kind of detailed nuances of what it takes to make a localized design template. I know I've had a lot of fun working on them and working closely with Canva to say, how do we even, how do we give instructions to our translators to make sure that they're aligning with also all these very complex and intentional elements that your design team is creating. So I want to switch gears a little bit from talking about the content to talking about the automation. You have a solid background in project management at many companies and your certification, but in your experience, is it more impactful to automate the project management of the localization workflow or the translation process, and why?
Good question. Can I say both? Yeah, I mean, I guess if you had to pick one, like the decision always comes down to which process has a higher demand for scale, I would say. In localization, that almost always means translation. Rarely am I working on a project where the project management overhead outweighs the translation effort. That seems ridiculous. Rarely am I in a situation where the translations are all finished and I'm still coordinating, how to ingest the data, how it's going to be handed off, where it's going next. Having said that, I've worked in project management on both vendor and client side in localization. And on either side, I know how quickly projects can get really messy. Jumping from 100 different spreadsheets, downloading 10 different versions of the same deliverable, running pre and post processing scripts, the whole kit and caboodle. When hiring project managers, I really highly value, spreadsheet expertise, data manipulation. Most PMs don't have the time or resources to rely on other people to perform these tasks. They're sort of expected to be the jack of all trades, to fill in the gaps between all of these teams. It's never too late to go out and learn how to write basic scripts, master the spreadsheet even more, and it will really save you a lot of time down the track if you're working in project management. So yeah, I would always lean towards automating translation, but it's hard. You have to make me pick one of them. I think any way you can bring automation into your workflow is going to help you scale. I think you need to have an appetite for automation and don't fall into the trap of telling yourself, I'll just do it manually the first few times, because that can be a really hard cycle to escape from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that Canva wouldn't have been able to grow at the rate that it has without leaning into automation in its processes and instead just doing everything manually. So in the environment that you're working in, it seems to be very agile and quick. I know that in my experience as a localization project manager, one of the key aspects of being agile was having lessons learned, adjusting, and then continuing to move forward. In your partnership with Lilt in localizing this design content, what are some of the things that you would have done differently?
Yeah, great question. I mean, just on the topic of automation, you know, as I just said, in hindsight, I probably should have spent less time in Google Sheets and more time investing in automating some of our workflows. That's easier said than done, though. On another note, I think, you know, most project managers in localization will already know this. You know, the risks of ramping up a translation project too quickly. Often when you're working under a tight deadline, you know, there's very little time for LQA early on. The primary focus of the project can be to hit the first milestone as quickly as possible, you know, start making deliveries. But the problem is when you scale too quickly, you scale your problems as well. You know, the last thing you want to do at the very beginning of a new localization project is dive headlong into scaling up without stopping to measure quality, you know, perform necessary feedback loops, set up LQA. Chances are not only is the quality likely to fail your initial expectations, but speeding up the team's throughput is only likely to exacerbate any issues. And if there are any translators, you know, watching, you'll know that, right? You know, you get all excited about a new project and you get the style guides and everything's ready to go, but then all of a sudden you're expected to output at a much higher, faster rate, and it's quite hard to keep the quality up. You know, early on with Lilt, we did have concerns with quality. That was something that that we overcame, you know, especially around the style and tone of the template translation. We fell into the trap a little bit of ramping up quickly. You know, Lilt's capable of hitting scale and doing it quickly, but, you know, we ended up, in some senses, scaling some of our problems as well. And ultimately, we did have to do some big rework on some of the first deliverables. Thankfully, Lilt was, you know, committed to improving the quality, did a fantastic job getting everything back on track. But now, when we're launching into new markets, Tiffany and I, you know, we're both keen to keep our foot on the brakes, you know, until we're sure that the quality is where we want it before we ramp up. I mean, like I said at the start, it's a lot easier, it's a lot clearer in hindsight. You know, I think the first thing you should do when a project finishes before you start celebrating, you know, is schedule a retro. You know, learn from your mistakes, like we said before. You know, just learn how to adjust your path forward.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure working with you, Paul, and I'm excited to continue iterating and moving forward.
Me too.
Great. I see that we're close to the end of our time, and I want to make sure that we leave some time for questions, and that your experience has left many wondering how they can better scale their programs and without compromising quality. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, and it looks like we have already somebody queued up for a question. So go ahead and unmute yourself and take it away.
Hi, both. Thanks for having me. My name is Iti. I lead international growth through localization for a leading construction tech platform called Procore, based here in the US. And Paul, I have a question for you. As far as articulating a language and a subsequent localization strategy, right? Especially because you have now scaled to 100 languages, you know, as part of your product offering. How do you manage regional stakeholder expectations when it comes to you know, the scope and the depth of those language offerings? Because that I'm assuming is not an easy path to navigate with the, you know, the number of stakeholders that you perhaps have, and, you know, the consistent expectations. And also the second part of my question is how, once a regional stakeholder perhaps even shares their feedback with you, be it product market fit or their language quality, localization expectation, how do you effectively close that feedback loop?
That is a great question. Thanks so much. Let me have a think about that. I mean, for a product like Canva, you know, our regional stakeholders are our users. It's number one priority for us as a company is to listen to our users. In terms of, I think your initial question was around sort of subsetting, choosing languages from within a specific market. Was that the question, Iti?
How do you articulate a language and the subsequent localization strategy for a specific region?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really interested in, internet penetration, and we're really interested in reaching out to users who are just coming onto the web in emerging markets as well as, established markets. I think while we are ambitious and have tried to really expand into as many languages as possible, it's worth noting that there is a limit. In terms of the strategy, it's purely just a matter of are there users, are there internet users in that country that have a design need, and can we meet them by unblocking or translating or localizing the product for them? In terms of the second part of the question, coming into feedback, that's a real challenge. That's a really big challenge, and something that I don't think we've fully solved yet. One way that we're trying to work towards it is just by focusing on it. So, asking ourselves these sorts of questions. We've set up a dedicated LQA program within the localization program at Canva. We do a lot of testing, so we do a lot of user testing, both sort of mass testing, so looking for functional and UI bugs, but also just user testing, seeing how users actually use the product and what they're expecting. In terms of managing language quality, I think that's a real broad challenge, and I think something that everyone in the industry is constantly trying to innovate on. But I think for us, something that we're leaning towards is actually just bringing some of that in-house. I think we want to explore actually having, if the resources allow it, actually having dedicated native speakers constantly looking at the product and constantly trying to tweak it and make it feel more at home, because oftentimes non-English speaking internet users, they get really an English product, either just English, or they get it, it's clearly an English product, but it's kind of been tried to shape towards them. That's not what we're going for. We really want a natural localized experience. So if you have any ideas, please let us know. But yeah, it is a real big challenge.
Yeah, those are some of the problems I try to solve every day. So this is a passion of mine. And especially I would love to learn from you with a broader offering of about 100 languages. I'm sure you run into challenges, especially with internet users, people who have that need for your product when it comes to long tail languages. So some of the key learnings that you might want to share pertaining to that, I would love to hear.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to long tail languages, really it's just a matter of us advocating to continue to support them. I think for those of us who work in localization, we have a real heart for people around the globe, and we really want to enable people to get their jobs done and to be fruitful. But I think a lot of the time they're not as justifiable from a financial standpoint, and so I think that's what I was saying at the start. It's really great that our leadership and our company as a whole really believes in empowering the world. I think I made the comparison at the start about it would have been a pretty safe strategy just to go into top 5 markets, but I think if you've got the means and you've got a big goal, we should be striving towards it. So that's and B, it actually does lead to benefits. You can actually have a meaningful impact on people in those parts of the world. And we have people running small to medium businesses in emerging markets who actually prop up their entire business based off the free marketing they can get through Canva. So it's really great to know that we can make an impact, but also as a linguist, it's really great to know that we can support some of those long tail languages.
Great. Well, I have a heart and I love mission-driven companies. So thank you for what you do. I am a user of Canva and I enjoy your platform very much. So thanks so much for having me. Thanks,
Idie. Thanks for the questions.
Thanks very much, everyone. That is going to close out. We did go, since we started 5 minutes late, went a little bit 5 minutes over, but we do have the closing session going to take part on the stage following up. And you can also, after the closing session, we will still have the networking open. And I'm sure you'll see some of our speakers in that networking place where you can ask them some more questions. Also utilize the chat for that. So with that, I want to thank Tiffany and Paul. What a great session. Thanks to our attendees for engaging so well. And We'll see you in the closing session in just a minute.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.